One of the questions I get asked quite often is what lenses do I use with my Sony cameras? So I wanted to make a quick video describing why I chose the lenses I use and which ones get used the most. So let me start with the most used piece of kit that I have. This is my Sony A9 and it's the 35 f2.8 Zeiss lens attached to it. The reason I have this lens is because look at it. This is a tiny piece of kit. Like, it weighs absolutely nothing. It balances so well and it allows me to get in and out of places very easily. I look unobtrusive, but it produces amazing results at 2.8 as well as when you stop down the lens. So there are other 35mm lenses available for this, but I find them to kind of lack in one way or the other. For example, all the third-party lenses are quite slow to focus and they do weigh more than this guy. The ones that don't weigh more, they are manual focus. So the only other option I had was the Zeiss 35 1.4. That lens is massive. The moment I put that on, this camera is like front heavy and it is slightly slower to focus. Sure, it's 1.4 and it's great at 1.4. I barely shoot my documentary style work at 1.4, so for me that wasn't a requirement. The lighter lens trumps that over and I enjoy using this one the most. So this ends up being my 80% go-to kit on a wedding day. The next one is the 85 1.8 from Sony. There are three different options that are native to the Sony body. 85 1.8 Sony version, the 85 1.8 Zeiss Batis, and the 85 1.4 GM. The other two lenses, the Zeiss was slightly slower to focus, and in tests, the rest of it kind of equals out. So for me, based on the price and the fact that this is slightly faster, I went for the 85 1.8 Sony. Again, just like before, the 1.4 is just too damn heavy for me. So I went with this. These two bodies and lenses are pretty much 90% of the time what I go to with my Sony kit. The next most used lens is this guy. This is the 16 to 35 GM and it is the most expensive Sony lens that I own. Why do I have this one? This is my only GM lens, and the reason I have this is because when I travel and I shoot these environmental portraits, I need a wide lens. I need a wide lens on the dance floor. It seems wider than my 35 at 35. It has pretty good perspective correction for how wide it is, and it is sharp, sharp, sharp. Like, I can shoot 2.8 all day long and still get corner to corner sharpness with this lens. In that regard, I think this is one of the best 16 to 35s ever made on any platform. So I love this lens and I like how it's a GM lens, but it doesn't weigh that much. I've tried the other ultra wide for Sony. It's like a 12 to 22 or something like that. I don't know exactly. I think it's 12 to 24. That was way too wide. That was just like, I I found myself using that lens and not realizing all the mistakes I was making when I'm shooting that wide. So I gave that in and got this guy because that was just too much. So if you're kind of considering that lens, I wouldn't recommend that one. So this is my, like, if I were to say all of my shooting, 95% of my Sony shooting happens with this piece of kit. Now, to add to that, I've got this is the Sony 55 1.8. Yeah, I really, really love this lens. The quality of this lens at 1.8 is incredible, and it's worth the money that you pay for this. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Sony lenses are not cheap. The 35 2.8, I think it was like $900 Canadian, and this one's like almost the same, if not a little bit more. But I highly recommend this if you need a 50-ish lens. I love how it's 55 and not 50 because that little bit of compression makes it usable even for headshots. It's a perfect lens, and I love this as my kind of go-to low light lens, even better than the 85 1.8. When I use both of these lenses at 1.8, I prefer the look of the Zeiss 55 1.8. It's just almost analog about it that no other lens produces. While we're on the topic of analog, this is my only third-party lens, Voigtlander 40mm 1.2. This is actually about twice the weight of the 55 1.8, so it weighs a little bit, and it's so good to use. It's manual focus, and this focus ring is like butter. You can sit here and like turn it all day long. But the quality of this lens is just mind-blowingly good. At 1.2, it's so sharp, and the subject literally pops from the background, and I love that look. I use this sparingly, but when I do, I find that the look is worth the investment if you're into that. So yeah, like I don't believe in a 1.4 lens because I feel like 1.4 is just almost there. 1.2 is where it's at. So if you're looking for shallow depth of field and you don't mind manual focus, I highly recommend this lens. This is one of those cult favorites. You can look up some reviews on this, and it's amazing. And to top it off, it's actually made in Japan, so it's an awesome lens. And it's one of the few lenses that actually doesn't lose that much value on the used market because of its cult following. So there you go. This is my full kit. What are these two sitting here on this side? Well, this is the gear acquisition syndrome side. So I have a A7R III that I've since retired. It's my go-to studio setup, but I've retired it to the Canon EOS R now, and it's connected to the 28F2. I don't know how to feel about the 28F2. I like the lens. I love it on the dance floor. Otherwise, I find myself not using it as often. It's more of a prosumer lens more than anything else, but it's a nice to have because of its the focal range. But other than that, I think compared to the rest of the lenses, it is slightly subpar. But if you need a 28 and you want a light 28, this is a good choice. This is the 24 to 105 kit lens. It just came with one of my cameras, and I love it for what it is, but it is a kit lens and it is a f4. You do get the full range from 24 to 105. It's great to shoot group shots. Other than that, it's okay. I used it when I went to Yosemite. I took just this one lens and it performed pretty well, but quality wise, it's not on the same league as the rest of the lenses, but it's good for what it does. So there you have it. That's the kit that I have. Hopefully it helps you kind of know what to look for. So I've tried out many other lenses. Like I've tried the 24-70, the 70-200, the 135 Sigma, and all of the Sigma art lenses on the A9. I found them to be good, but not good enough to kind of fit the bill for how I use my cameras, so I never got any of those. This here, over here, does most of my job, and it does it well, so that's what I would recommend. My first go-to recommendation is the 35-85 combination, and then grab the 55, and then add the 16-35, or the other way around, depending on how you shoot. If you shoot more portraits, go for this. If you shoot more landscape, go for this. And then if you want to kind of have that analog fun feel, buy a Voigtlander. All right, take care guys. I'll see you soon in another video.